Hello, everyone. I'm Erik D'Souza, and you're joining us today for another episode of Crime Writers Canada's podcast, where we are interviewing all the members of Crime Writers of Canada who have been nominated for an award. And I was telling this to Shelley earlier. I'm surprised we haven't met before, but I'm happy to introduce everyone to Shelley Adina. Hi, Shelley.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show.
It is a pleasure. The reason we are chatting today is because you have been nominated for the Whodunit Award for Best Traditional Mystery, sponsored by Jane Doe, for your novel The Engineer's Nemesis, published by Moonshell Books. A little bit about you. After a childhood spent reading Nancy Drew and several years supporting the RCMP, Shelley Adina Bates now writes mysteries as members of Sisters in Crime and Crime Writers of Canada. She's the author of some 60 novels, steampunk adventures, and cozy fantasy mysteries as Shelley Adina, deeply researched historical mystery under her full name, and as Adina Senft, she's the USA best-selling author of the Amish woman's fiction. She holds a PhD in creative writing from Lancaster University in the UK. When she's not writing, Shelley is usually quilting or enjoying the garden with her flock of rescued chickens. Um, let's start with world building. I was reading a review of yours on Amazon that said that Shelley Adina is quickly becoming the go-to author for fun, clean steampunk adventures. I don't know too much about steampunk. I know it's an alternate reality. And I thought it was maybe best for you first to describe steampunk, but also tell us about the world that you created.
Steampunk is how the Victorians visualized the future, written by us living in the present, looking back at the past. So the Victorians, they visualized things like rockets and bicycles that you could pedal that had balloons attached to them and undersea dirigibles and that kind of thing. And in steampunk fiction, all those things are part of the world building. So, you can actually go online and research patents for all the stuff that never worked. But in steampunk, my sort of philosophy about that is it doesn't have to actually work, but you can make the reader believe that it does.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I guess it fits for the time, but they're flying zeppelins and stuff, and
I have
seem to.
actually flown in a Zeppelin, and yeah, they work just fine.
I know we have a bad opinion of it now, but one accident and,
Yeah, the whole industry goes,
exactly. Well, we meet your two characters, the young widow Lady Georgie Brunel and her auntie by marriage, Millicent Brunel, as they're flying Helena. So, uh, just the two of them. Tell us a little
Mhm.
bit about it.
That I wanted to do a sort of midlife protagonist series, and so the main Georgia is 38 and her Aunt Millie is 58. Georgia has been an abused wife and now she's a very relieved and happy widow. And they go on a road trip. And during the course of the various cases, they come into possession of their own airship, and it's the latest in, design and technology. And so as they go, they collect one of the themes of my work is the found family. So Georgia has a son who's like the heir to the estate, but she collects people and Millie collects chickens, and every book that I write has chickens in it. And people are kind of like, okay, where's the chickens this time? And the reviews are saying, yes, there's chickens this time. So that just the a comfortable, cozy world in which women are smart and able to take on the challenges that the adventures throw at them. That's kind of what I do.
Yeah, as they land in Provence, where this third book takes place, yeah, they're not the people who are there to greet them aren't surprised that two women are traveling alone on the Elena. They're more surprised that women of their stature don't have people
Right.
doing it for them.
So you could be in France they're a little more traditional than they are in England. England is most of the stories are sort of based in England. Victorian England at the time, that's kind of the steampunk milieu.
Mhm.
And the women are part of what I like to do is experiment with women flipping the expectations of society. And so in my world, there's the wits and the bloods, and the wits are the ones that are the inventors and the tinkerers and the adventurers, and the bloods are
Mhm.
the traditional, you know, noble families that aren't very interesting and still drive coach and four.
I've met some of them. You are nominated for a traditional mystery, and we haven't even mentioned mystery yet. So, as they land in Provence at the Chateau Valmy,
Uh-huh.
which I
There it
researched and
is.
does exist, um, they get in, even though they're there to rest, there's obviously going to be a dead body, and they're going to have to solve it. So, tell us about I guess, the plot or the mystery of this particular book.
It's kind of the past comes back to bite you sort of a story. The mistakes that we make when we're young and foolish, usually you just hope they go into, you know, the stream of the past and you don't see them again. But in
Mm.
this case, the past is not forgotten. And so we have the Lord of the Manor winds up dead in the first couple of chapters. And the lady, his wife, of course, that's going to be the first suspect. And Georgia, it's one of her closest friends. And so she and Millie decide that they will look into this themselves. And in the course of the story, Millie sort of draws on the tiny little bit of herbal lore that she accumulated in past mysteries and does some research. There's reasons that they sort of settle on this has to be not like a knife or a gun or something. It has to be
Mhm.
something more subtle. And so that's how they narrow in on who could have done it. And you know,
Mm.
it's a country house mystery. That's my jam. That's my the chocolate chips in my cookie. I will buy a country house mystery any old time.
You're not alone, and there's also, I guess, the language that you're using. I guess if you were fans of Jane Eyre, there's that. I don't know how to say it, but it's not our English. It's more genteel, maybe. How would you describe it?
It's, well, a lot of it came from writing Regencies very briefly. And once you get into that voice, it's really hard to shake it. And I found that I liked using it. And it's not like super posh or anything.
No.
It's as the Victorians and the Edwardians probably would have spoken, like no contractions if you've had an education, that kind of thing. And it's also a nice way to differentiate characters. Like one of the characters is Scottish, and so there's just a tiny little bit of the brogue in her dialogue, and the characters who are on the staff, they are a little bit looser with language, their contractions and whatnot. So it's just fun to, it was a very real thing. How you spoke pointed instantly to where you were on the society, in the echelons of society. So I play with it a little and sometimes subvert it a little, but it's fun to write.
I wanted to get your advice on where readers should start. So, kind of in a mystery series, quite often you can start at any book. There's a standalone mystery, and it's perfectly fine. In a fantasy series, it's often recommended to start from the beginning. And I'll say, like, when people ask me this question, I say start from the beginning. Would you recommend people start from the beginning, or could they pick up the engineer's Nemesis and be perfectly fine?
I think the mystery reader will be okay picking up the book because each book has a separate case.
Mhm.
There are a couple of through lines through the whole six-book series. Like there's a romance arc for both Georgia and Millie, because even if you're 58, it's, you know, you can still have a romance. And there's a kind of the world building, the steampunk part of it. And there's, you know, her son eventually is going to get a romance. So there's things, the world building begins in book one
Mhm.
and kind of the big bad because it keeps cropping up. And so the reader will understand those things, but if they don't, they're like, oh wow, here's this kink in our expectations and this is kind of evil and we have to, you know, be on the lookout. And then you're cheering for Millie and Georgia to, you know, evade it. But I, I would say starting on book one would give you a deeper dive into the world before you run up against the first case.
Um, I don't think I've ever asked this question before, and it's maybe a little weird to ask a mystery writer, but you've won the Romance Writer of America's Rita Award in 2005 and was a finalist again in 2006. You're a USA best-selling author for your Amish women's fiction. Romance is a huge market that dwarfs crime fiction. Why do you still write crime fiction when, I guess, the money and the fame, perhaps, and the readership is in romance?
I wrote for Harlequin. I wrote 7 books for them, and you're right, the readership is huge and hungry, and but still my steampunk was like my personal this is mine. These are the stakes, and this is where I write it to make myself happy. And then when my big series came to an end, the adventure series, the Magnificent Devices,
Mhm.
I moved into mystery because I wanted to write mystery. I've always loved it since a child, Nancy Drew's Secret of the Old Clock. And I like writing it. I have a very orderly mind and I like justice. And those are the two criteria to write
Mhm.
and read mystery. And I like to write romance. They're like palate cleansers for each other because I alternate. And yeah, granted, the Amish romance is kind of my bread and butter, but this is what I do for fun to keep my brain happy.
I guess keeping your brain happy is an advantage to all of us. So thank you so much for
It's
writing
hard to do this
mysteries.
full time unless your brain is happy.
As you said, you do this full time. This might take a while to answer. Well, usually when I say what's coming up next, it's a short answer for most people, but for you, I don't think it is.
How many years would you like to go out?
Let's just do this year.
Okay, the next book in the Lady Georgia Brunel mysteries is coming out on May 27th. It's The Aeronaut's Heir, and it's a kidnapping, because I haven't done one of those yet. And that's the end of this month. On the 1st of July, an Amish romance comes out that's part of a 12-book series with other authors, so that's been kind of fun. And then on October 23rd, the first of my Lady Hay Investigates trilogy launches, Death on the Graf Zeppelin. I was researching my dissertation and I ran across this article about the woman who had been the woman, she was the first woman to cross the Atlantic on a Zeppelin airship, her and 59 men on this vessel. And she did this repeated, like the next voyage she took was the first trip around the world by a Zeppelin, and she was on it. She was on the maiden voyage of the Hindenburg in like 1936, I think, a year to the day almost before it went down. So this woman was kind of amazing. Flight was what she loved. And I thought, well, here is this made to order real life person. These voyages were incredibly well documented because she and her companion were both Hearst reporters, and they were sending
Oh,
articles to the papers like every night. And so practically the script is written for you. And so I thought, well, what if she also had a knack for solving mysteries? And they are essentially locked room mysteries because they're 1,000 feet in the air and you have to catch the criminal before you land.
that sounds very interesting. Uh, I
I
know
can't
that
wait till they come out.
I know that you and I are going to meet in Bouchercon, and
Mhm.
looking forward to meeting you in person.
It'll be fun.
Um, I tell this to everyone. I don't know who won your category, so I can honestly wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.